Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bonds Payable Part 8. This is determining the bond proceeds where the stated interest rate is greater than the market interest rate. However, in this example here, the interest is going to be paid semi-annually or twice per year. So let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing is that if the stated rate of interest is greater than the market rate of interest, what is going to happen? Well, we know that if the stated rate is greater than the market rate, it's going to issue for a premium. So what we're going to go ahead and do over here for this particular question, for question 8, is because the stated rate is greater than the market rate, we know it's going to issue at a premium. So right over here, we're going to go ahead and say on 1/1/25, we're going to debit cash, we're going to credit bonds payable. We always credit bonds payable at the face value. So the face value of the bond is 16 million. I'm going to also be crediting premium on bonds payable. Okay. Now here's where things are going to be a little bit different than what we were going through and doing before. In this here, interest is being paid twice per year. So when I look at this over here, let's first figure out the cash that I'm going to be the cash I'm going to have to pay out. Well, we've got the principal amount, and this is going to be over here at 16 million. But over here, when it comes to the interest payment, okay, right over here, I've got 16 million, right? So this is 16 million is my principal amount. Okay, now my stated rate of interest. And whenever I see a stated rate of interest, will be an annual rate. Okay, so unless it says otherwise, the stated rate of interest, whenever you see it, it's always going to be an annual rate of interest. So basically at a rate of 5%. Okay, so my total annual interest is going to be 16 million times 5% or 800,000. However, this is annual interest. Okay, the bond is going to be paying interest semi-annually. And what we can say here is be paying interest semi-annually, probably on June 30th and December 31st. So if this is annual interest, my semi-annual adjustment is going to be over here at 6/12 or twice per year. So my total annual my total semi-annual interest is going to be at 800 times 6/12 or 0.5 or 400,000. Very, very important step. Now, what's the next thing we need to go through and figure out? Well, we've got to figure out when we go to the present value tables, right? I know I'm going to go here, present value of $1, because this is a lump sum. This one over here is going to be the present value of an ordinary annuity of $1. But here's where we get into these questions. It gets a little bit more fun. Okay. So if the bond has a 10-year term, right, and I'm making semi-annual interest payments, and this is going to be 2. So the total amount of interest payments that's going to be made. So my total interest payments is going to be 20. So it's going to be paying interest 20 times. Very, very important, right? So when we come over here, remember, when we go to the present value tables, we're going to say over here, we're going to say this is going to be 20 periods because that's the number of times interest is being paid. However, over here too, just like when we saw that 5%, that 5%, whenever you see an interest rate, it is always going to be an annual rate. So right over here, we've got the market rate of interest. This is an annual rate. So to make this semi-annual adjustment, this is going to be at 6/12. So I'm going to multiply 0.04 by 6/12. And what am I going to get? I'm going to get 0.2%. Okay. So again, notice over here, 20 periods at 2%. When you see the market rate of interest and the stated rate of interest, this is always going to be an annual rate. So we have to go through and make the conversion. But also notice too, is we're getting interest more often. It's a 10-year term, but we're getting it twice per year. So it's going to be 20 periods. So let's go ahead and go to the tables. So right over here, I'm going to have 20 periods at 2% for the present value of $1 or 0.67297. Okay. So when I multiply 16 million by 0.67297, I'm going to get roughly about 10,067,67,520. Now let's go over here to this table here, present value of an ordinary annuity of $1. Same thing, 20 times interest is being paid, 10 years, twice per year, 2% is 16.35143. Okay. So my total present value of the interest payments this over here is going to be 400,000 times 16.35143. So over here, so the total cash received is going to be 17,308,92. So let's go ahead and make this a new color. Right in time for after St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so my cash received is going to be 17,308,92, right? And this is what we expected. Why did we expect it? Because the stated rate is greater than the market rate. If that's in fact the case, the bond will sell at a premium. So over here, 17,308,92 minus 16 million. And so my premium on bonds payable is 1,308,92. Now, if you have a bond that's paying interest semi-annually, the journal entry doesn't change. The form of the journal entry doesn't change. What is going to change, though, is that on your present value of $1 and the present value of an ordinary annuity of $1, we're going to have to adjust both the stated rate of interest to reflect the proper amount. We're also going to have to adjust the market rate of interest when we go to the present value tables. And remember, because it's being paid, interest is being paid twice per year, the number of times interest is paid is going to be doubled. So in any event, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. Please feel free to leave your questions below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day.